Yes, guys, welcome back to another episode of Teams Like Brighton. And joining us on our episode before we look ahead to the Liverpool match is poet Zombe. Some of you may recognise him on Twitter. Zombe, good to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you, and it's a pleasure to meet both of you. It's exciting to be on the podcast again.
Pleasure's ours, my friend. Pleasure's ours. Just so, obviously, you're quite well known on the Albion Twitter, but in case of those who aren't much on social media and follow us on our podcast, could you just give yourself a quick introduction of who you are and how you got to where you are today?
Okay, so personally, I'm an economist. I'm also a public speaking coach as well as a spoken word poet. So on Twitter, in regards to Brighton, I'm somebody who's followed Enock Mwepu, apart from the fact that he's from Zambia, my country, but he's one of the players that I actually adore and I think was a very, very good player, football player. So when it came to Brighton, when he moved to Brighton, I started writing these short poetic clips, which to my surprise were well received by most of the Brighton fans. And it gave me more of an encouragement to keep doing the same. Like every time he scores, every time he makes an assist, I would write about it. Not because it's something that people love, but it's also something I enjoyed because I've watched these matches and I would enjoy when Enock Mwepu makes a difference for his Brighton team. So when it came to social media, especially on Twitter, as you mentioned, that is a place where most of my videos were shared, and I got to engage with a lot of the Brighton fans. I think I've met a couple of them in Zambia here, and it's been an amazing journey since.
Really interesting and good to hear. I'm just going to push back on something you said. I think you're being a bit too modest. You say you're surprised. I think your talent speaks for itself. So don't do yourself down on that. But just moving on from there. So how did you actually get in contact with Mwepu? Was it through the poems that you were doing, or how did it come about?
It was actually through the poems that I was doing. Before he moved to Brighton, he was playing for RB Salzburg. And there was a period, I think, should have been 2018, 2019, somewhere there. They were featured with Patson Daka in the UEFA Team of the Week. So I made an honest post saying, just congratulating the two of them for being featured in the Team of the Week. And then a couple of my friends who follow my work advised me to write a poem for both of them. And initially, I wasn't too inclined to write poetry on sports related content, but then I was compelled. Some people from the office says, "So just write, you lose nothing." So I wrote one poem that was featuring both Enock Mwepu and Patson Daka. And when it was released, it was released on Facebook and made such a big hit to people who are also following the two players. I think after a few days, our president then Edgar Chabalungu actually posted the poem on his social media platforms. And that was the first time I got contact from Enock Mwepu. He texted me saying, "Oh, I just watched your feed, your video on the president's page. That was beautiful." And I think from there we built more of a friendship. He appreciated what I did as a poet, and I appreciated what he did as a footballer. And from there, we got to know more about each other. I actually wrote a poem and performed it at his wedding. And I think it's been a friendly relationship since. Yeah.
Amazing.
That is amazing. I did not know about the stuff about like his wedding as well. That must have been an amazing situation to be a part of.
It was so much fun, and he's somebody who's so attentive to detail. Like when I wrote the poem, I gave him the lyrics, and he was making these minor tweaks. Say, I want it to sound like this. I want it to read like this. But it was a great experience overall. We enjoyed that. I went with my fiance then, my wife now, to the wedding, and she was actually singing part of the chorus. So it was a very beautiful performance, and we had a really, really great time.
Well, I guess he is nicknamed the computer, so I guess that sort of attention to detail is apt. When he did make the move to the Premier League, along with Patson Daka, obviously to Leicester, what was the kind of the reaction back home with these sort of two trailblazers?
Okay, so one thing that we do attest to in Zambia is the Premier League is the best league in the world. that's the place where, if you're a footballer, that's where you want to play. That's where you want to feature in. So when Patson Daka and Enock Mwepu went into the Premier League with Brighton and Leicester City respectively, it was more of a dream come true, not just for the two players, but for a lot of the Zambian football fans. Even those that don't watch football were excited to have one of their players or two of their players in the Premier League.
And obviously, let's talk more specifically about Enock Mwepu, a good friend of yours, clearly as well. But as a footballer, how big of an advert has he been, and how much support has he gained in his homeland in Zambia?
Okay, so Enock Mwepu, when just before his retirement, in the previous couple of years, he was the Zambia national team captain. So he had gained that much respect. And coming from a youth system where the youth Zambia, the national Zambia team, the youth team, played some really, really amazing football. He was one of the few young players in the Zambian crop that played really good football, and almost the whole nation was expectant of big things from players like Enock Mwepu, the computer. So he's somebody who built a brand for hard work and smart football. He's not somebody who was a huge workhorse, but we knew him for his intelligent play, his leadership skills in the on the pitch and off the pitch as well. So in Zambia, it's something more of he's more of a footballing idol to a certain extent, especially given his age. He made a very huge impact on the football scene in Zambia. And I think I speak for every Zambian. We are proud of what he has achieved. We are proud of the player that he is. And I think everyone is very, very supportive of his journey, even as now and the future.
Yeah, obviously it's such a sad topic to talk about. I remember when I was just about to log on to work one day, and I just got an email from Brighton's press office team saying 24-year-old Enock Mwepu's had to retire because of a heart condition. I mean, I was gutted, but I guess what was your reaction? And it must have been the same back in Zambia.
It was more of the same. Or personally, I was in disbelief. I was truly hoping for it to be fake news, to be just one of those rumors or something that was of predetermined kind of arrangement. But then I saw it on the club's official pages, and it started hitting real hard. And I think it hit harder when we got to see a Brighton team without Enock Mwepu, not because of injury, not because of him maybe flying out for international duties, but because he will not play again. So it was something that was heartbreaking, and to an extent, it really still is, because I got to watch Brighton more consistently because of Enock Mwepu, and because of the relationship that I've also built with the fans and the people that are related to the club. I still watch and follow Brighton Football Club, but it still kind of lingers. You still feel like there's a missing piece for us back home, because that was a club, somebody who we adored, somebody we followed for quite a long time. That is where that is where he's connected to. So it's heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking, but we have no option now but to be supportive towards Enock Mwepu, because we can't languish in the decision, or languish in the status, as it were. But now we have to look at what he's doing next and support his next project, because he is really a brilliant guy.
Yeah, and let's talk about his next project. Decided to go down the coach fantastic. For me, whenever I watch him play, I'm a big fan of a midfielder who could read the game really well. And for someone who was nicknamed the computer, you have a certain bar to meet, I think, in each game. You could see each game when he played at the Albion, he was reading the game really well. And he got that knowledge that many players don't really have the privilege of getting. And now he is going down this coaching route. He's still at the Albion, coaching and looking to work, getting the coaching badges in, which is brilliant. Out of curiosity, you said you two are friends. Have you two spoken since his retirement, and how do you know how he's in terms of his new coaching role?
Okay, so we haven't spoken much since his retirement, and I think it's been a personal decision just to keep it within a very small circle. His decisions, his next move. He's always been somebody who's private. He's not somebody who's flashy for everybody to know what's happening in his life, in his private life. So I've kind of accepted that this period a little bit is going to be one where he's a bit enclosed until I think a time when he's personally free to speak and engage with the public. And in relation to his role as a coach, like you have rightly put it, the computer and him being a midfielder was based on somebody being able to read the game, understand it, and execute the necessary balls or the necessary movements in order to make the next move tick. So I could only assume, because I don't know him as a coach, I know him as a player. But because of that thought process, I believe Enock Mwepu is the type of person I could actually say he is whatever he thinks he can be. And if he believes he can be a good coach, I can definitely bank on the fact that he will deliver on whatever his objectives are, even in his new coaching role.
Yeah, on that point, Roberto De Zerbi said that Mwepu was a smart guy, and previously, obviously, Mwepu said that he wanted to be involved in football in some capacity. Were you surprised that this was the move? But personally, I thought it was a pretty classy decision from the club to obviously keep him on their books.
I think it was brilliant and super classy from the club. I personally didn't expect it to be in such a role. I was maybe thinking maybe he would be in the backroom stuff, just to be around, hopefully, or maybe he could have been an ambassador for Brighton whilst being in Zambia. But him being a coach actually provides him growth even in his career, even as a coach, because him starting with the young players, he can grow on to develop his coaching abilities, and who knows, he could one day coach Brighton. But that's me being wishful. But otherwise, it was a classy move from the club, and we here in Zambia celebrated that appointment as though it was a goal for Brighton in the Champions League. So we're really grateful for that, and we hope for the best.
Zombie, you say you're Fabian still. Let's get your thoughts ahead on this weekend. It's a big match at the Amex. Liverpool come into the South Coast. What are your thoughts ahead of the match?
I think Brighton have put up some good form in the recent games. They're doing pretty well. I remember some time back there was some sort of almost negative optimism when Potter left and De Zerbi came in. You know, sometimes when a new manager comes in, you kind of expect anything, but he's come in and Brighton are still playing very good football. And I think some fans might argue that they're playing even better football than they were back then. And going into the game against Liverpool, I look at the Liverpool side that is not as complete as it were a few seasons back, and they are capable of being beaten by a good Brighton team. And I think I'll be very optimistic about this one. I think Brighton go into this game with as much positivity as they possibly can with the football that they're playing. They're now not having problems in front of goal. They're getting goals from different players. So it's something that I think will be almost a 50-50 match. If Brighton go with the way they've been playing previously, I think we could knock a win with this one.
Yeah, lots of good points there. I mean, just from for a personal perspective, I was lucky enough to see Mwepu's stunning curling strike at Anfield last season. So maybe just going back to your point about the missing piece, maybe that will, I don't know, potentially be a fuel of motivation for Brighton players. Or I mean, it'd be amazing if he actually came to the ground, but maybe a bit too soon. But yeah, you said that off air that you've really closely been following Brighton since De Zerbi's come in. What have you made about the transition between Graham Potter, where obviously Brighton were doing very well, but now to Roberto De Zerbi?
I think I give plaudits to how the club is structured in general, not just the managers that have been transitioned in this short period. I'm amazed. I'm still amazed at how Deserby has come into the side, and there hasn't been that blip of having to start over. It seems like more of a continuation from where Graham Potter left off and where Deserby starts. And like I said in the beginning, it goes to how the club is structured. They have a system of how they want to play football, and even when they buy players, when they appoint coaches and buy players based on the philosophy of the club. So the transition has been great. I think the football that they are playing now is almost similar to what they've been playing under Potter. It's a bit more attacking. It's kind of risky to an extent. And I think that goes to Deserby. His when he goes full attack, they go on attack. But I think over time we'll get the defensive structure as well. But the football so far, the transition has been positive. It's something that gives fans and even people like myself great optimism for the future. That we're still having young players coming in. We're having Ferguson stepping up. So it's something that's really positive for the club.
I got eyes on, but you know the understanding that you have on the Albion is amazing. Out of curiosity, have you been to the Amex at all recently? And if not,
This is a funny question, yeah. Just before Enoch's retirement, a few months prior to that, he had an interview with one of the journalists from the Premier League, and she texted me asking me for some content on Enock Mwepu, some of the previous poems I'd written about him. And after they had their conversation with Mwepu, she came back to me and told me, "We need to get you to Brighton. We need to get you at the Amex because it's only going to be fulfilling." So unfortunately, I haven't been able to come to the Albion or to watch Albion play to the Amex Stadium to watch any Premier League. I think the time when I really wanted to have come through, which was last year, I was having to raise funds for my wedding. So almost all the little cents I had went towards that. So we're literally in a process of trying to get that back and hopefully raise enough for me and my wife to actually come and watch a game. It's something that is on our bucket list. We hope to be there one day.
Oh, fantastic! Well, yeah, I think Brighton would love to have you. Just want to ask, obviously with Mwepu retiring, there was, if you went on social media, there was, hordes of Zambian fans like tweeting positive stuff about Mwepu. And I mean, the game that he played against Arsenal last April, where he scored an amazing goal, and he was just fantastic. Is there still like a strong following of Brighton, do you feel, amongst the Zambian fans, or do you think that will maybe shift to Daka because he's at Leicester and obviously Mbappé's not there, or how do you see it?
Okay, so my honest feeling is we will see some of the Zambian fans reduce in numbers in terms of those who follow the Albion, but there will still be those that will have that emotional affiliation towards the club simply because that's where Enock Mwepu is. And I think this speaks volume to the kind of character that Enock Mwepu is. It's not just about his football, but it is who he is when in person. So even as much as we don't get to see him play football on the pitch, we're still attached to the club that he's still attached to. So I'm sure there's still going to be some fans who still keep up with with the Albion, seeing what's happening with the team, seeing what's happening with Enock Mwepu as well. But them shifting their attention to Pats and Daka, I think this is something that's quite common among Zambians. Is we didn't pick sides on who to support, whether it's Enock Mwepu or Patson Daka. We were excited to watch Patson Daka. We're excited to watch Enock Mwepu. So we're literally supportive of each and every one of them.
I absolutely love this. The fact that little old Brighton, like I've been following the Albion my whole life, and going from playing at Athletics track to Premier League, the Amex, and being able to attract fans, not just from within this country, but worldwide, and being able to have like this kind of connection with like from players to people in their homeland I think it's just an amazing story, not just for the club, but also like for the people involved in it as well. So again, Zombe, I want to say thank you, first of all, to say thank you for coming on the podcast, but we have to do this as is tradition. Obviously, you said that we could be winning this weekend, but we always end up with a score prediction. So, Zombie, I want to know, what is your score prediction for this weekend?
2-1 to Brighton.
Nice. Love it.
It's a big call. Richie, what are you saying?
I'm joining the poet, man. Yep, 2-1.
I'm gonna go a little bit more ambitious. I'm gonna go 2-0. We're gonna get a clean sheet. I reckon Bobby Sanchez is gonna get a clean sheet. Yes.
Nice. Just one quick
yes, I am.
One quick question I want to ask. Just looking forward to the future. Are there any other kind of up and coming Zambian players who we might know about who could maybe make the Premier League and maybe follow in Mwepu's footsteps at Brighton one day?
I think there are a couple. We have our first Zambian playing in the Italian Serie A. His name is Enock Banda. He's a winger, quite an explosive young winger. And then there's a midfielder who's playing his trade in, it should be Croatia. I think it should be Croatia. His name is Kings Kangwa. That's somebody that would definitely need to keep an eye on, and I would love to see him at Brighton because he's playing really, really good football. He's an attacking midfielder, stroke center midfielder, so he's a really very, very good player. And I think from the top of my head, those are the top two, apart from Fashion Sakala. Fashion Sakala is playing for Rangers in the Scottish Premier League. So that's another exciting player. He's been on fire since the start of the new year. So those are the kind of players that are coming from the country that Brighton fans and I hope Brighton scouts can be looking at as well.
Great stuff. Well, Zombe, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed recording this podcast with you. And yeah, take care. Keep us supporting the Albion. And I hope to see you at the Amex soon.
Hope so too. I can't wait. I will definitely be at the Amex. And thank you very much for having me. I've had a great time. Thank you very much, Richie, Tom. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Cheers.